Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Greater Las Vegas's Wednesday evening service. I'm Reverend Laura Hallett, and it is my pleasure to be here with you again this evening. This year here at CSLGLV, we are looking at a year-long theme of building a community. And so we've broken each month into qualities or things that are necessary to experience a healthy working community. And so for the month of June, we are looking at the idea of balance. How do we bring more balance into the relationships, into the situations, and into our own lives individually? This week, our topic is finding the magic balance between community and individual needs. You know, so often those of us that are steeped in spirituality and in commitment to service as a spiritual practice often find ourselves getting overworked, overcommitted, not taking time for ourselves, and because we're spending too much time looking out for others. And so there is a very simple, highly effective practice that we can begin to engage in that will help us find that magic balance. It's as I said, it's very simple, but it's also sometimes tricky to implement in our lives. And that is the idea of boundaries. I talked a little bit about boundaries in January when we were speaking about freedom, because truly boundaries, setting good boundaries, are the way to find personal freedom in your life. And when you're working with a community and dealing with groups of people, and these are, people that you really care about and that you want to see thrive. I know the people that are in sacred service to our community are absolutely committed to the total success of Center for Spiritual Living Greater Las Vegas. And they are so willing to help out at so many different things. And sometimes we find that our things start to not work as easily. There starts to be little tiffs and little conflicts going on among people, because we find out that the people are overstressed. Actually, they're overworked, and they need to find some balance in their lives as far as what their own personal needs are and what the needs of the community are. And it's a tricky thing. It really is. There are so many different ways that we can implement a boundary, and there are so many excuses that we have for not implementing that very same boundary in our lives. So we have different feelings that come up when we go to set a boundary. I know for me, historically have been a great people pleaser. If you study the Enneagram, I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, which that's the title of a 2 is the people pleaser, the accommodator, the one who provides comfort and care for others, nurturer, and so forth. That's what my personality type has historically been. I am working towards shifting some of that through the practice of establishing boundaries. And so there are lots of things that we can begin to do to actually find what it is we need to set boundaries with. First off, look at the things that are really blaring, really right there in your face. Like, for instance, oftentimes my boundaries revolve around physical discomfort. So when I find that I'm uncomfortable physically, I've overtaxed my body, I'm exhausted, I'm hot, whatever those things are, that to me is a clear signal that I need to stop and rest. And stopping and resting and taking care of myself is a boundary that I'm willing to establish so that I can actually be of service a little further down the road once my body has recuperated. And so that's one of the ways that I look for that signal. Again, as I said earlier, oftentimes the lack of boundaries shows up in conflict. It shows up in petty arguments. It shows up in complaining about each other and things like that. So when I find that I start to do that, I'm like, oh, somewhere along here, I've let somebody cross my boundary. I've actually not let somebody cross it. I have not held firm to what my boundary is, because it's all on me. It's not on somebody else. I can't expect someone else to know where my boundaries are and honor them. This is on me to say, okay, that's it. No, that's all I'm doing right now. And so, when we stay in that attitude that we have to keep sacrificing ourselves for others in whatever that way is, physically, emotionally, time, whatever that is that we're doing, then we begin to resent it. It simply is not sustainable at all. And there are things that begin to show up contrary to that. In community, what we often find is that the people will fall away for a while. They've done so much and given so much of themselves that it's time for them to step back and take a break. And that is totally legit. I would like it to get to a point where people don't feel like they have to totally step out, that they've taken care of themselves all the way along the way, so that we have that sense of sustainability in the volunteer work that we're doing, in the service that we're doing to our community and to each other. If I take care of my own needs all of the time, then I can then have place for other people, for me to take care of other people's needs. But if I neglect my own needs, then they suffer too, because there's just this, I'm not fully able to contribute in the way I was able to before, because I'm depleted. And so we work at finding those areas in our lives where we can set a boundary, maintain that boundary, and do it in a way that is not alienating to anybody else, but it actually is empowering to other people. It gives them permission to do the same thing. I just returned from San Antonio, Texas, where I was officiating the internment of my parents at the Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery. And I was with my family. I love my family. My family's fabulous. It was terribly hot and humid there. It was, I live in Las Vegas where it's hot, but it's not humid. And it's a whole different kind of heat. And, after being here almost 50 years, I've learned how to manage the extreme temperatures we have here. But we were in San Antonio and it was 97 degrees and 92% humidity. And yeah, it was really tough. And so, my family had planned lots of little excursions prior to our celebrating my parents. And so we were, they were asking me what I wanted to do. And so I was picking one activity each day to do, because I was like, I need to also have time to take care of myself. And so we were at the zoo on Saturday or Sunday morning, and I was good for the first hour and a half until the heat really got up, and it was like, okay, I need to take care of myself here. And so I just finally, I said to my family, I said, look, I want you guys to enjoy this place as long as you want to enjoy it. I saw a restaurant back there where I can go sit and have a nice ice cold drink in the air conditioning, and I will be absolutely comfortable for several hours. So you take care of yourself. I'm going to go back there and take care of myself. And so what happened was exactly that. They had a wonderful time touring the zoo. They weren't worried about me because they knew I was perfectly fine. They weren't feeling bad because I didn't want to be out in the heat anymore. And I took care of myself, and I knew my family was having a great time. But what I found was the next day, my doing this gave other members of my family permission to actually take a step back too and say, that's too much for me also. This heat's too much for me. So I'm going to step back and not do that activity too. Because I was the one who established the boundary for myself, purely because of I needed to take care of me. I knew that if I continued to be out in that heat and the discomfort of the humidity, I'd be a bear by the afternoon. And I really didn't want my family to have to experience that. I'm never much of a bear, but for me, it was enough for me to do that. So by setting that boundary for myself, that this is what I'm willing to do, I'm happy to be there. I was one of the people that had rented a car, so I was happy to drive them anywhere they needed to go. At one point, we were waiting for somebody for something. I don't remember what it was, but I'm sitting in air-conditioned car in the shade. I'm cool. I'm seated. There's no sun on me, and I'm having a nice conversation with my brother, and I'm like, I'm good. Take as long as you want. I don't have to go anywhere else or do anything else. I've got all my comfort taken care of right here and right now. And so for me, it was a good lesson. And like I said, I believe it was a good demonstration for my family that this is a way that we take care of ourselves. And so that is one of the ways that we can be in service, is to be that example of how to set appropriate and honoring boundaries for ourselves that allow us to have that experience that we want to have without taking away from anybody else's experience, and without us having any kind of resentment or anger or irritation because we've done too much. We've overcommitted and we've done too much, and now we're ticked off about it. And so finding those little things that you can do to begin to set your own boundaries. One of the best things to do is to actually take some time and go within and see, where are those areas in my life where I feel like I'm out of balance? And then begin to see, what kind of a boundary can I set there? So I'd like to take us through a little experience of that right now. We're going to do a little contemplation. You might want to have something to write on, because sometimes these things come to us, and if we don't write them down, we forget about them. So you might want to have a little journal or notepad or something, or your phone with your note app open, just so that you can jot down anything that may come to you. This is not technically a meditation, but I'm going to take you into a quiet space and turn within and see what is wanting to reveal itself as a place where you may need to establish some kind of boundary so that you can function in whatever community it is. You know, we all have different kinds of communities in our lives, you know, our work communities, that our hobbies, our activities, our family communities, whatever that is. Look to see if there's some place where you feeling like, yeah, this isn't working for me, and I need to change how I show up in it. And by changing how I show up, I can then begin to implement some different boundaries for myself. And again, like I said, it empowers others to do the same. So let's take a moment here and just get a little still. And just kind of turn within. And when I do that, I just simply close my eyes and focus on my breath as it's moving through my body. I check in with the rest of my body to see if there's any places that are calling my attention to them that may need me to give them a little notice. And then I breathe into that area, just imagining the breath moving into that spot of my body and opening up all the cells and filling them with what they need, taking away anything that doesn't belong, and allowing everything to relax where that is not as noticeable. And so I want you to just begin to do an overview of your last week, or maybe your last couple of weeks. And see if you can bring to mind any time that you felt like you might have been out of balance, like maybe you were giving more of yourself than you wanted to. Or maybe you even thought somebody was asking more of you than you were willing to give. And as something comes to mind, just notice the details in that situation. What was happening? Where were you? Who were the other people involved? what was being asked of you, and how were you feeling about what was being asked? How were you feeling physically, emotionally? Did it feel like it was a thing that was going to tax you too much? Either time-wise or financially or emotionally, physically? Just notice the circumstances and everything involved in it. Now, as you're noticing all of those details, see if there is an area that is more loud than the rest. For instance, maybe you were being asked to do something that took you away from your home more than you wanted to be. Or maybe it was something that was actually physically draining for you, and you felt exhausted afterwards. Perhaps it was something that took up more of your time than you were really willing to give. Or perhaps it's something that put a strain on your financial resources. And once you've identified what that one area is, and there may be many areas where you could have set boundaries in this situation, but let's just focus on one for right now. What would you have liked to have happened in that situation instead of what did happen? Maybe you would have liked the person not to have asked you in the first place. Or maybe you think the person should have known that that would be too much for you. What would you have liked to have happened? How do you think you could have let that person know that this was too much? Now here I'd like you to just really say those words that you would have said to let that person know. Because it feels very uncomfortable oftentimes to set a boundary. And so sometimes we need to practice it. We need to practice it silently in our heads. We need to practice it in front of a mirror. We need to say it often, so that when the time comes and we really need to say it, it comes out of our mouth more easily. What would you like to have said to that person? Now, if you're starting to feel some discomfort in thinking of saying something to somebody that you would not normally say, this is also time to get comfortable with discomfort. Because that little bit of short-term discomfort that you feel making the statement that upholds your boundaries is going to pay off hugely in the end with you honoring yourself. Sometimes it's necessary to actually write it out like a script. Like, this is what I'm going to say. And know what I'm going to say before I enter into the situation. The moment I feel like my boundary is being even pushed up against, let alone crossed, just when it starts to push up against it, the moment I feel that is the moment to say, this is where I draw the line. I am not willing to do that. I need to take care of myself. Whenever you feel you're in a situation like this and you feel like your boundaries have been crossed, then go ahead and repeat this. Go through this, like, what was going on here? What was the boundary that was being crossed? How could I have handled it differently? What could I say to this person to let them know that this is where the line is and I'm not going over it again? Now, I have a few people in my life whose boundaries are very beautifully defined. And I've learned well from them. And so this is an opportunity for not only you to learn it for yourself, but for you to be that example for someone else. Where by setting boundaries, the community runs smoothly. It's when we don't have boundaries, when we think we have to do and do and do and do with no end in sight, that's when problems start to happen. That's when conflict shows up. We can't expect anyone else to know what our boundaries are. And so it's very honoring of ourselves to set those boundaries, to claim what we want and what we need, and to not let our discomfort or old patterns of being and behaving, this idea that, if I don't do it for them, I'm a selfish person. Well, you know what? A little selfishness is necessary in most of our lives. In fact, I think most of us could use a little bit more, especially people that gravitate to spirituality. We have a tendency to be givers, and givers have to know where to draw the line. So practice this often, practice it freely. Try it out in a safe situation. If you've never set a boundary for yourself, if you've never said no to someone about something that they're asking you to do or give or be, try it. It really is quite amazing to feel the freedom that comes from that. I know that oftentimes in the past and occasionally still right now, I will commit to something. And then afterwards I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't really want to do that. Now I got to do this. And it's like, And then I have all that inner turmoil. Should I call and cancel? Should I say no? Should I just not show up? Which I can't do that. But, that's the way sometimes I feel inside. But when I've set a boundary and I set a firm no, it's like, no, I'm good. And that's kind of the end of the subject. they can move on to find someone else that they need to do the thing. And if people keep coming back to you for the same thing over and over again, then that's time to have a little deeper discussion with them about what your boundaries are and what you're willing to do. Truly, setting boundaries is one of the most freeing things that you can do for yourself. It will give you more balance in your life. Like I said, I was in San Antonio. I came back feeling refreshed, rejuvenated. I did not come back feeling depleted. Although I was really happy when I stepped off the airplane and it was only 82 here in Las Vegas. A dry 82. All right, folks, have a wonderful week, and we will see you back here next week on our Wednesday evening service. Make sure that you check out our Keeping It Real on Thursday mornings and all of the other offerings that we have available for you on our YouTube channel. We have meditations, music, talks, and all kinds of spiritual food for you to help you navigate your way through each week. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Here at Center for Spiritual Living Greater Las Vegas, we are a mission and vision-driven community. We offer transformative educational opportunities, deep and meaningful moments of connection, uplifting Wednesday and Sunday services. We greatly appreciate your contributions that support the amazing work we're doing here in Southern Nevada. We have several easy ways you can contribute. We have text to give. Simply text the amount of your donation to our text to give number, and you'll be prompted to enter your information. There's a link to our online donation page posted below this video where you can contribute by debit or credit card. And of course, you're always welcome to send a check to our office if that works better for you. All of your contributions go to support the great work that we're doing here in Greater Las Vegas community.
Monthly publication, Science of Mind magazine, is a treasure to be read and contemplated. Along with in-depth articles, there is a day-to-day spiritual support to be gleaned from its daily guides. Licensed practitioner Lynn Frankenberger hosts Adventures in Faith on Zoom, and you're invited to join in. This is a weekly group discussion that focuses on those daily guides and how to apply them. Check Facebook and our weekly newsletter for more details.
Keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real with Reverend Laura. Keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real with Reverend Laura.
CSL Greater Las Vegas brings you much of your favorite spiritual music every Friday at 7 p.m. with spiritual soundscapes. Enjoy performances from CSLGLV vocalists along with special guest singers. It's music for your soul. Subscribe to the CSLGLV YouTube channel to get a convenient link sent to you for each musical performance. At CSL Greater Las Vegas, it is our mission to inspire spiritual discovery through community connection, exploration, and celebration. This mission supports the all-inclusive vision of Centers for Spiritual Living worldwide, in which we envision a world that works for everyone and all of creation.